Things Xbox podcast. We've been away for a few weeks because I've been sick due to bronchitis. Now, before we get into all the topics and just talking in general, which is fun, I have to say this. I was provided a free copy of Flight Simulator 2024 to review on the channel for free by Microsoft. So when we get to the review portion, just know that they gave me the code for free to cover, but I'm going to be 100% honest about it. Now that's out of the way. No show for 3 weeks because I've had bronchitis. And let me tell you, bronchitis, it feels like you've been hit by a truck everywhere in your body. I've had no voice for 3 weeks. Literally haven't been able to talk. And as someone that has a somewhat deep voice, this bronchitis has had this weird inverse effect on my voice where, like, I normally have a deep laugh and a very distinct laugh. And for some reason, when I laugh now, it's I don't know if the bronchitis has damaged my vocal cords, but I literally sound like one of the hyenas from The Lion King.
Oh
So
no, Mickey Mouse syndrome.
yeah,
No.
so if at any point I laugh during the show, you'll hear this weird high pitched hyena laugh. It is what it is. But yeah, bronchitis, it's not fun. What can I say? And normally when I'm sick, I don't like to talk about it because it's just annoying. People have dealt with it, but oh my god, bronchitis! What a thing to go through. I hate it. We need to find a cure for it yesterday, please. Someone, scientists, get on that. But all that aside, Logan, it's been a few weeks. What have you been playing?
Man, I've been playing a bunch of different stuff. Balatro, like we'll talk about Game Awards later and stuff, but like basically like I had heard so much about this game and I was someone who didn't know how to play poker before, honestly. And it was just like, oh, it's just a card game, but digital. What's the big deal? Everybody keeps talking nonstop about this game. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'll buy it. It was on sale. I bought it, and man, I got hooked. It is so much fun. I've been playing that a lot. I've beaten most of the main decks. I haven't beaten all the special decks yet, but it's a lot of fun and it deserves the praise it got. I'll just put it that way as a general synopsis. Been playing that. The Thing Remastered, which is a topic we'll get into later. Been really enjoying that. The Spyro Trilogy hit Game Pass. I've been playing through that, and man, Toys for Bob just knocked it out of the park with those.
Oh
They
yeah.
they did a fantastic job taking the original trilogy from Insomniac and making it way better, way more accessible, modernized. The humor's really funny. I'd forgotten a bunch of stuff from it. And I'm almost done with the second one out of three now. And it just raises my hype even more for the presumed Spyro 4 they're working on. So if you haven't played those, now's the best time. They're in Game Pass, along with Crash Trilogy and Crash Racing, which just got added recently. So an ABK is another topic we're gonna hop into later, and then also been playing Power Wash Sim, which is my go-to chill game. Listen to a podcast or music, wind down from a day, and they added a new holiday skating rink map, which is really fun. It's like an ice skating rink with like the Coca Cola bear, but not the Coca Cola bear because licensing. But it's a polar bear. He's there. And penguins, a whole bunch of just holiday stuff. Really fun, chill. And also been playing, let's see. I already mentioned the thing. So yeah, I've just been playing several different stuff. How about you, man? What you been up to?
Well, unfortunately, with me being sick, I've not really played many different games. I've played a few, but I finally finished Metro Exodus. Let me tell you, that game is possibly one of the best looking games ever made. It got its
It's
free,
gorgeous.
yeah, it's gorgeous. It got its free next gen update 2 years ago, and nobody really talks about it that much. And I never actually finished the game before, so I went through the whole game. fantastic, phenomenal experience. Cannot wait for the next Metro game. If people haven't played it, highly recommend it. And it's always on sale a lot. Recently, I think the whole trilogy was on sale for about £7, which is ridiculous, and it all came with the DLC. Another game I've been playing is Fallout 4. Shocker to no one. Death Stranding I've been playing a lot of. That game is so weird, I don't get it. Right? I can't put it down. And it's a game where you have to... So a few people have asked me what is the game about, and that is an awkward thing to be asked, because the game is about you reconnecting settlements in the UK by delivering packages and reconnecting their Wi-Fi, basically. So you're a delivery / IT man at the end of the day. And it's weird. The story doesn't make sense, but I'm so intrigued. It is definitely a Kojima game, and there's a lot of Metal Gear Solid 5 in this game. There's so many different gameplay mechanics that are in this. Even the slow motion mechanic when you get spotted by an enemy is literally from Metal Gear Solid 5. So I'm really enjoying it. I mean, the fact it was £17 when it came to Xbox, that was an impulse price for a lot of people. Like, I had no interest in playing Death Stranding ever because of my brief experience with it in the past. I thought it was boring. But £17, I was like, why not? So I gave in, got it. It's so weird, but I like it. Logan, I know you got the collector's edition, right?
Of which game?
Death Stranding.
Oh yes, yes. I love that game. I've put a bunch of hours into it. I dropped it when a few other things I had been waiting on came out, but I've been meaning to go back to it. Yeah, I have the PS4 collector's edition, which the memorabilia will carry over from my Xbox, digital version, whatever. But yeah, it came with the BB light up lamp. Like, you just set it on your desk or table, and it's got the BB jar. And I've really freaked some people out when they've come over and they're like, "Oh my God, what is this baby thing in this jar sitting on your desk?" I've explained that, and yeah, it's such a great game. It's so weird though.
Yeah, it's weird. And it's so hard to explain to people because it's just bizarre. You have this baby attached to your chest that can see supernatural beings.
The dead.
yeah, I can see the undead, but also you have your own pocket universe called a beach, but you can invite other people to your own beach. It's so bizarre, but I love it. Like, it shouldn't make any sense. I shouldn't like it, but I mean, as a Metal Gear Solid fan, you know what you're getting into with that type of game. But yeah, I've also been playing Flight Simulator. Now, I really want to talk about Flight Simulator because it's kind of a niche franchise, right? But it's not at the same time. You know, when Flight Simulator 2021, I believe that's when it launched, that was expected to bring in $1 billion of revenue when it came to the game and hardware, because people go all out buying hardware such as flight sticks and throttles, pedals, everything, just to play a flight sim. So people go hardcore on console now. People go hardcore on PC with these massive rigs. You know, PC settings up to the highest. Even on console, on Xbox Series X and S, this is a beautiful game, and it runs really well. Well, after my experience with the one that came out a few years ago, it had its issues. It had a massive download size, so you had to install over 100 gigabytes for the base game, and basically 20 to 30 gigabytes per pack. So if you wanted more detailed areas such as New York or whatever, you'd have to download a really huge expansion pack, and it would take so long. And you would also be streaming data online as well, so it would just use a lot of bandwidth and a lot of memory. Thankfully, with Flight Simulator 2024, the game is around 29 gigabytes, and I'm not having to install any extra packs. It's just all done on the fly. Now, I will say this. I got into the game the day after it launched. So when the game launched, people had a lot of bad issues when it came to logging onto the servers because, again, it's a majority online experience. So when you go and look at the reviews online, especially on the Xbox store, people are complaining about the server connections, and it had a bunch of issues, but I didn't have that. My experience has been bloody great, right? The game loads super fast into any instance. There's a bunch of challenges which the previous game didn't have. And also, this game's actually made for newcomers as well. So, while it does have its tutorial section where it teaches you all the basic, the basics of flight when it comes to planes, helicopters, even blimps in the game, there's actually challenge modes in this game where you don't have to land or take off. You can just literally just fly through courses if you want. I won't mention which one, but as of last week, I was number 1 in the world on one of the challenges, which I was like, that's nice. But it is a very, very well polished game compared to the previous title. Asobo, they know what they're doing. This is a photorealistic experience that's less than 30 gigabytes. It live streams data, even on a day where I normally have a pretty bad connection. For me, Thursdays are terrible. My internet is terrible on Thursdays, and I had no problem logging into the Flight Simulator 2024 servers. Now, all of the experiences aren't live yet, such as the Red Bull Air Racing. That isn't live yet. They're unlocking different events each week, I believe. But as of right now, there's a bunch of events you can do. You can do racing. You can even fly crop dusters through racing, helicopter piloting, all that stuff. It's actually a really good way to get into the game. And there's so many different kinds of aircraft in the game. So you actually have blimps this time. There's more kinds of helicopters. It does look like Microsoft may be bringing some experiences from the last game into this one. But I think Microsoft may need to sort out licenses because we have the Dune expansion from the last game, the Halo stuff, and also the Top Gun Maverick expansion. None of that's in the new one, but I have a feeling that Microsoft will bring that stuff over because there's also previous challenges from the last game in this one. But honestly, as a flight simulator experience, it's great, right? In the past, I've talked to like one of my friends in real life who actually knows how to fly a plane, and I've actually been able to talk to my friend that actually knows how to fly a plane, and it makes sense. So even though he flies a real plane and I play a video game, we can actually understand each other just because it's so accurate. And I wouldn't let people put this off. Don't think just because it's on a controller on console, it's going to be hard to play. It's actually surprisingly easy to get into. So if people want to get into it, I highly recommend it. Honestly, I've had such a good time with Flight Simulator 2024. It's been flawless because, again, I got in the day after it launched. But server connection, perfect. Flight challenges, fun. It's easy to get into. Good for newcomers. Good for basically anyone that's a flight sim fan. It has a lot to offer, and they're going to expand on it over weeks, months, and years with new game modes, experiences, aircraft. Honestly, it's a good game. I highly recommend it. And yes, I was provided a review code. But again, the only negative thing I can say about my experience with Flight Simulator 2024 is the fact that we have to wait each week for the new challenges. But it's not that big of an issue. And one of the things I do like about the game is that each week there's a set of 3 unique challenges which you can do, and there's a leaderboard and all that stuff. Really cool game. Highly recommend it. And again, it's also in Game Pass Ultimate, so you can play it that way as well. And if you also get the Premium Deluxe Edition on the Xbox Store or on PC, you basically unlock all aircrafts and also premium airports. Now, I've never sounded more like a nerd in my entire life. Before we continue, I just want to read this out by one of our mods, Pyromad. Speaking about this, Crash Bandicoot Racing, Beanox needs to make an Xbox mascot racer. I think a lot of people have been wanting this. It makes sense. Yeah, Microsoft, they have so many different intellectual properties, so many different characters that it really does make sense for them. They have the Forza Studio as well, which, who knows, maybe they can make something, on the side, a smaller game. I think kart races it's a weird one because if you look at Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, right, that game has sold something ridiculous. I think it's like 60 million copies. It's absurd how many copies it sold, but people love it. Like if you want to play a kart racer right now, the marquee go-to kart racer is Mario Kart. Nobody does it better than them. The cars feel great. The tracks are great. It's the best. And every other kart racer that's came out, it just doesn't sell that well. You know, the Sonic Team Racing games or Sonic Transformers, I forgot what you call them, but the Sonic Racing games, like those play really well. They're fun games. The gameplay is good. The tracks are good, but they never took off like Mario Kart. And I think that's always going to be a problem with, you know, kart races because for some reason, you know, Mario Kart will sell like 60 million copies, and you'll have someone else come out with a kart racer and it doesn't even chart. So I think in the future, if we do see a company like Microsoft or someone else do another kart racer with, you know, major characters, they have to be really specific about how they market it because Mario Kart's all over the place. You know, it's suitable for all ages, but other kart races we don't really see marketing that much. You know, there was the Nickelodeon kart races. There's even a Smurfs kart racer. So, like, I would love to see an Xbox centric kart racer, but will we? I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been sick for weeks and I'm, you know, annoyed at my health. But honestly, I would love to. Like Logan, I know you want to see a kart racer as well, right?
Yeah, and it was something that Rare themselves had once considered. Like, if you go back and play Rare Replay and go through some of the memorabilia and the videos and behind the scenes stuff, like they had a Fast and the Furriest, like was their name for it, game that was going to be a mascot racer. And if you're, older like us and you've played on N64, like Diddy Kong Racing was like a true rival to Mario Kart at the time. It had a campaign and good story and characters and memorable cast and gameplay was really well done. It's just since then there hasn't really been a true competitor. I mean, Crash Racing has been really good and it's been like the nice alternative to it, but like there's something there though that they can take it, and if they expand it and put some more characters in it, more gameplay stuff, expand the scope, they could really be cooking with gas there. Like I like it, and I think there's something really special there. It's just it doesn't have like the roster that a Mario Kart does. So if you get a roster in there, I think it would really take off. Like Mario Kart, for example, like Mario Kart 8, I remember that came out on the Wii U originally,
Yeah.
which was a doomed console, and it still sold like gangbusters. And then they ported it over to the Switch, and they just keep remastering it and putting out new stuff, Mercedes tie-ins, all kinds of crazy stuff. So there's totally room for them to do this, and I really hope they do.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen. I mean, given what these studios are like these days, excuse me, we could basically see anything at this point. Now, just want to, before we go into the major topics, I want to say this again, not having a show for 3 weeks, it kind of hurts the algorithm. So if you're enjoying the show, please like, share, and subscribe. It really does. I hate doing these little ads. It's cringe. But at the end of the day, it helps the channel grow and the podcast grow. But if you want to share it out, that's great. It's appreciated. Again, it helps. If you want to support the channel with super chats and all that stuff, it's really appreciated. It helps the show grow and the channel grow. Now, Logan, you want to talk about the Thing Remastered? Because this game's a bit weird because it's an original Xbox game. A lot of people really didn't get to play it. You know, my local game store at the time, or I think it was called an Electronics Boutique, they didn't really stock the best selection of video games. So, like, for me, it's something I missed out on. And it got randomly announced. I think it was like the week of Gamescom, and then we had no other information about it. And then I basically found out it was going to release in December. That's why it was in my last video. And it's got all these upgrades. It's 4K, 120 frames per second, HDR, enhanced textures, enhanced AI. Basically, what you want from this kind of remaster. And it's finally out. And I know you've been wanting to talk about this for a while, Logan, because, again, you've played the original. So what do you think?
I mean, this is once again another standing ovation to Night Dive. Like simply put, the only people that are neck and neck with them in terms of game preservation is the Xbox BC team. It's like those two on the mountaintop. Like nobody sniffs them compared to that. Like they're incredible at what they do. Like this game was a cult classic, kind of like a little rough around the edges, but like if you stuck with it and you hung in there and you played it, and especially if you were a big fan of horror and the thing itself, like you there it was a diamond in the rough. But they've gone back and not only did they fix a lot of lighting issues and you know graphic upgrades and all that stuff that they typically do. But they brought in three of the original team members, three or four of them, I can't remember, to help them with this process and to go, hey, you guys were on the original team. What did you have to cut for whatever reason that you wish you had left in? Or what did you have to change or do one way when you really wish you could have done it a different way because of either budget constraints or time constraints or whatever? And they've done that, and they went back and modified and tweaked one of the more annoying aspects of the original one, which was this fear trust system with the squad mates and blood tests to see who is a thing or who's not. And they've made it overall easier. They've put more ammunition in places. They've added a first person aiming for when you're in combat, and it's just night and day, an astronomically better experience. And the fact that they're able to basically take a PS2, Xbox, GameCube era game and take it to a technological leap of a next generation, like to a PS3, Xbox 360, you know, Wii U type leap is rather impressive. And now that they've moved on and they're not just doing 80s and 90s games anymore, but they're even entering the early 2000s, that opens up a whole huge catalog of other great hidden gems that they can work with. And I love them to death. Night Dive is awesome. And they're like a day one for me. It's like I don't even care what they put out. Like I bought that chef shooter game, and it was a blast, and I had never heard of it before. But I'm like, Night Dive, I'll take it to the bank. So fingers crossed they can tackle some other really fun gems.
Yeah, I mean, Night Dive Studios, they have to be probably the best port studio or remaster studio out there. They clearly know what they're doing. For a lot of their projects, they go back to the original source material and enhance it, which is what you want to see. I mean, even their version of Star Wars Dark Forces, like they made 3D models for what were originally pixelated characters. So like they clearly care about the games they make. And like, look, I've gave Aspire some flack in the past for like some of their games, but Aspire do come out, every so often with a really good, remaster. Like the Legacy of Kain games, they've clearly done a great job with them. But Night Dive Studios, like they go all in. It's great to see, and I will say this for the 102nd time: they have to remaster the Chronicles of Riddick games. Like I need that right
They'd
now.
be perfect.
And I do own them on 360 digitally, which is great. I don't care. I want to play them on my Xbox Series X in shiny 4K, HDR, all that crap. And yeah, they'd be perfect for it. And the thing is, I think in the past, Night Dive Studios have liked a couple of my posts when I've asked for that. So like, just keep paying attention out there, people. Really get out there and port beg for the Chronicles of Riddick games, because my God, I really want those games to come back. Um. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what? We only really have like one negative story to go over, and it was a very public one, and that is XDefiant. XDefiant is shutting down, and after season 4, I believe, It's not getting any new content, and it's going to shut down for good. I believe they said June 2025. Uh, I think everyone saw the writing on the wall. You're going up against not just Call of Duty, but like the year a new Black Ops game comes out, and Black Ops came out of the gate with campaign, multiplayer, zombies, and it had a bunch of new things people wanted. It had enhanced movement for the campaign, basically all the mods. It had the zombies mode, which is level based, which people have been wanting for years. And they didn't really stand a chance. And I did play XDefiant in the beta. I didn't think it was good, but then I played the full game and I thought I played a lot better. But okay, for some reason Siri on my phone's going off. Shut up, Siri. But yeah, XDefiant, it didn't have that fun factor Call of Duty does. Call of Duty, everyone plays Call of Duty. It has it's fun gameplay. And XDefiant was lacking that. The maps just kind of felt dull, and having by the way, out the gate, I do not like operators in games. I prefer classes, or just let me pick my own loadout and class. Right? I don't like operators in games, and the way they did operators in XDefiant, big no for me. I didn't like it. Logan, I'm guessing that you did not play XDefiant.
Nope, not even a thought or care in the world.
Yeah, I thought as much. I mean, if you're gonna play a shooter like that, you play a Call of Duty. The multiplayer landscape at the minute is a mess. Battlefield. Oof, as a Battlefield fan, we've gone through it. We've gone through the ringer, and we've had Battlefield 1, which was a mess because like a week after it came out, it was broken, and everyone was using snipers. So it wasn't fun anymore. You had Battlefield 5, which they ended support within like a year. The maps weren't good. The graphics were phenomenal, by the way, in that game. And then we got Battlefield 2042, which everyone knows what went wrong with that. I mean, they went to, they dropped classes altogether. The maps were terrible. 120 players sounds good for a Battlefield game, but it just didn't work. And it just wasn't fun, They have improved on it over time, but too little, too late. And, you have XDefiant come out of the gate, where it was delayed over and over again. They kept coming out with these roadmaps, and then they missed the roadmaps. And they were gunning straight for Call of Duty, and they didn't do anything required to even compete in any level. They didn't go after, getting any of the big, Twitch streamers or YouTubers to, the Call of Duty people to play the game. Not really. The game just wasn't appealing to the masses. And the thing is, you have Call of Duty multiplayer, which you have to pay for. If you don't want to play Warzone or all that stuff, like to get Call of Duty multiplayer, you have to pay for it. People would rather play a paid $70 game than a free-to-play shooter that was trying to do the same. That just goes to show, one, people are creatures of habit. People don't want to move on to something else. But also, Call of Duty played better. So Ubisoft were in this lose-lose situation with this brand new studio they put together for this game with people that had worked on Call of Duty in the past. So, yeah. It's a shame, but I mean, we all saw it coming. There's no other way around it, Ubisoft, they have a lot of issues at the minute. They might be getting bought out by Tencent, but that's all up in the air at the minute. Look, there's gameplay on screen at the minute of Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. I've been talking about this game since it came out. I think it's a phenomenal game. Yes, it is Far Cry for hippies, but that's why it works. And they didn't advertise it at all. They dropped the second and final expansion as of, 2 weeks ago, a week ago, and we didn't get a single trailer for that expansion before they launched it. So they were selling this expansion on a single piece of art. Like, Logan, as someone that hasn't played Avatar, like, what's your thought on that alone? The fact that Ubisoft did not put a trailer out before the launch of the expansion.
That seems like a really bad missed opportunity again, but it's pretty on brand at this point. Like Prince of Persia, which is a lot of people that I've talked with adore that game, the new one. Like, I enjoy it too. I haven't beaten it yet, but like they consider that a Game of the Year worthy title. Yet they didn't market it hardly at all, except for like one trailer. Oh, and guess what? It fails to meet expectations. And then they moved the team on to other stuff, even though the team begged to make a sequel. And they've made DLC and everything. It's the Ubisoft way. Speaking of Avatar, though, I actually did pick it up on sale, so I'm gonna go hang out with the blue people as well. And it's on xCloud, so if you have an xCloud device and you're a Game Pass subscriber, that is one of the 50 something titles you can play.
Oh, I'm happy to hear because it's so good. Ubisoft did that game a really bad disservice. Uh, like think about it, you have this amazing franchise that consists of two movies, and together grossed what four point what $9 billion, like it's something absurd. Just two movies, spanning across what 12 years, and they come out with this game that 100% captures that feel of that universe, right? A feel of you walking around on Pandora. The only thing that's missing is the Leona Lewis soundtrack. Damn them. But because that, I don't know, as soon as someone mentions Avatar, I just hate that Leona Lewis song. Like, because it just,
Bleeding love,
yeah,
yeah.
it just works. But like it's a great game. It's fun, Yeah, it is a weird thing in that game because your perspective isn't from a human; it's from a 9 foot tall alien. So when you see other people walking around, you kind of have to get used to the fact that, oh yeah, these are humans that are short compared to you. But outside of that, it's an amazing game. But yeah, that's just one of the things Ubisoft missed out on. Like, they should have marketed that game to the masses as a, hey, do you like Far Cry? You're probably gonna like this. In fact, I think it's better than the past three Far Cry games. Just putting it out there. Um, and it does offer a lot of different things that Far Cry doesn't do. It's just, that's the best comparison you can come up with. But yeah, highly recommend it. It's just Ubisoft's in a weird place at the minute. Um, if you look at them, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, they were coming out with, like, think about it, in the span of 1 year, they came out with Far Cry 3, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, Rayman Origins, Splinter Cell Blacklist, Ghost Recon, Future Warfare, and like they had
Future Soldier,
Future Soldier.
I
That's it.
think.
That you, um,
Yeah.
like they had so much variety, and all these games were different in such a short period of time. And like back then, they were my favorite publisher. There was nothing they could do wrong because everything was just so different from each game, and they'd come out like, look, Splinter Cell Blacklist. Its only issue was the main voice actor. Michael Ironside was too sick to play the role. But it has the best mission structure and best gameplay of the entire franchise. And it didn't even get all of its DLC because it didn't reach its sales expectations. And that's where Splinter Cell is in like a horrific, place right now. Ubisoft, they just need to get back to making good games people want with variety, because at the minute, and I'm saying this as a Ubisoft fan, I love Far Cry. I love Ghost Recon. I loved Watch Dogs, right? I love basically all of their intellectual properties outside of Rainbow Six Siege, which that's just not for me. Like all of their franchises are blending together at the minute. Watch Dogs was basically getting gameplay stuff from Ghost Recon. Ghost Recon was getting gameplay things from Far Cry. Far Cry has some Assassin's Creed in there, and it's like, I think like 10 years ago, people used to joke about the towers thing, right? You go see a tower, you climb to the top of the tower, and you unlock a part of the map, right? That was a meme, but that was essentially the only thing Ubisoft used to copy from one game to the next, right? But now it's just a bunch of different gameplay mechanics, and while I think they are fun gameplay mechanics, they just don't need to be in everything. I'll use Avatar for an example for the millionth time. There's no towers in that game, right? You basically fly around, and when you discover new parts of the map, they unlock. That's basically how it's done. And that's one. Even though it is a lot like Far Cry, I think it's one of the most refreshing Ubisoft games in a long time. It has so much originality in there. But yeah, Ubisoft, they just need to get back to making good games people want. And like, look, I haven't started Star Wars Outlaws yet. They fixed all of the issues people have had with that game. The forced stealth segments are no longer in the game. There's no longer the stealth elements where when you get caught, it's an instant fail. They've completely changed up the aiming mechanics. You can actually use enemy weapons now. There's proper cover in the game now, so it's like they're clearly listening where it counts. But like when it comes to all of their studios with all their franchises, they really need to go in and sort things out because, like, again, my favorite publisher, I want them to come out with great games. And like, look, they're coming out with Splinter Cell Remake allegedly next year, right? Allegedly. So, what's that going to be like? Oh, and while we're talking about Ubisoft, the Tom Hardy Splinter Cell movie officially got cancelled. The film that's been in pre-production for about 10 years. So even though we all saw that this film wasn't never going to happen, I'm still heartbroken. Because like Tom Hardy is Sam Fisher in a Splinter Cell movie. Do you know how good that would have been?
Would have been great.
Yeah, but Logan, have you got anything else to say on Ubisoft before we change topics? Because I mean, there's nothing else we can say. It's Ubisoft, you know.
Oh, just that. Yeah, like I'm tempted to pick up Outlaws now that it's one I've been wanting to play because I'm a diehard Star Wars guy. I always have been. It's my favorite, mega franchise out there. So, yeah, now's a great time to dive in. I'm tempted to pick up that Ultimate Edition now that they finally chopped a huge chunk of the price off during the next few days, like I did with Avatar. Like I was able to get that 120 edition of Avatar for
Yeah.
51. Like they knocked it way down. And like Avatar, this Outlaws is also cloud playable as well. So Ubisoft, for all their issues they've got going right now, at least they do are support some initiatives that are good, like the cloud stuff, and going back and taking feedback and fixing their games because they do want them to succeed, even if sometimes they don't know what they're doing up front.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'll mention Avatar for the 1,000th time. They've fixed basically all the issues. Like, and it was just like small minor stuff, like, you know, the amount of things you can put in storage, the amount of items you can cook, just things like that. You know, they put in a 40 frames per second mode in for people with VR televisions or monitors. Like, they put in a really like impressive list together of just like really small features people wanted, to the point where Avatar now is an incredible state. I'll mention another game they fixed, Ghost Recon Breakpoint. When that came out, it was an embarrassing mess. It lacked most of the features people liked about Ghost Recon Wildlands. And then they come out with this game which was allegedly a sequel to a beloved game which sold over 25 million copies, and it was lacking everything people loved about Wildlands. And now, many years later, it's in a great state where I recommend it to people. You know, if you want to play stealth solo, you can do that. Do you want to play with other AI squad mates like Wildlands? You can do that. You know, hell, there's even an option in the settings, and I mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. You can play this game as a traditional Ghost Recon game, or you can play it as a Destiny-style game with loot drops. Right? So you can, with the toggle of one thing in the settings, you can change the genre of game. Right? And I think, you know, that's great. You know, you have so many different play options, and I think, you know, Ubisoft, they get a lot of flack, but they are really good at fixing issues in games, and even just like small minor things people want in games, such as, you know, the ability to throw an empty bullet case in Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Right? It's something people wanted, and they put it in. And, you know, Ubisoft, they make really fun games with solid gameplay, and yeah, I do think people do go over the top with nitpicking their games. You know, like I'll mention Star Wars Outlaws again. I have not seen really anything about Star Wars Outlaws that I think looks bad. I think the game looks good, you know. I've just been limiting what I've been playing because I've been too sick and it's been a crap year. But it is what it is. I think the game looks good. Anyway, we'll move on. We have some good news. Now this happened, I think, 2 weeks ago, but still good. So, Metal Gear Solid HD Collection. This came out, I want to say late last year, and what you're basically getting is Metal Gear Solid 1, the original PlayStation version, with no upgrades at all, but you were getting Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 HD versions just in one package. And it really disappointed people. It's one of the reasons I'm a huge Metal Gear Solid fan, and I did not pick this up. I've been waiting for them to, quote-unquote, upgrade it like they said they were going to, but a lot of developers would fall back on what they have said because this game launched in not even a bad state, just a disappointing state, because people thought, hey, we have these shiny 4K consoles with HDR, high frame rate and all that stuff, and we got literally the versions of Metal Gear Solid HD collection we had in 2012. So anyway, fast forward to about 2 weeks ago, and the game finally has 4K upgrades. So the game already ran at 60 frames per second anyway, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3. Now it has internal resolution scaling, meaning you can play Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 at native 4K. A lot of people have been waiting for this upgrade because, again, if you've played Metal Gear Solid HD Collection like me, I've probably played that for 20, 30 times, but now they are 4K. You just go into the settings and mess around with them. You can also completely change the controller binding. So if you don't like the way the aiming works in Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, you can completely change it. In fact, you can mess around with the controls so much in the new HD collection, the new Master Collection, you can actually play the game like a modern game. They've changed that much stuff. The only downside is that they haven't upgraded the first game. And the reason is because they want the game to remain as pure as the original game, which I think is a mistake. I've seen the original Metal Gear Solid run at 4K. Even with those old graphics, the game still looks pretty good. But maybe they'll go back on it at some point. But hey, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, 4K. I think it also has 1440p and all that stuff. But hey, it looks like they finally gave people the upgrade they wanted. Logan, what do you think? Because I know you were interested at some point.
Yeah, that's good news. I'm always for more upgrades and free updates to things and different options for people because certain people like one aesthetic versus another or control scheme. Get like the Resident Evil games, like you have a tank control scheme for some and then a more modernized for others, and you can kind of tweak and combine things. So the more options, the merrier. I'm happy about it. It is a bit disappointing they're not revamping the first one more, but I get from a preservation standpoint keeping it as pure as possible. So in that regard, I respect it. And yeah, I'll probably dive into those closer to Remake 3 release date.
Yeah. I do think, off topic, I do think the remake of 3 is going to drop in March. Just the way the developers have been talking about. Yeah, the way the developers have been talking about the game for a while, and they've put out a lot of footage of that game, a lot, and I just can't see it being that far out. A lot of developers next year are going to be very careful with how they release games because, GTA 6, that's blatantly going to launch. Well, we'll talk about GTA in a bit, but a lot of developers are going to be staying far away from the end of the year. But yeah, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 in the Master Collection, upgraded, have at it, and I've seen a bunch of gameplay at 4K from a Series X. It looks great, and I also think the Xbox Series S, I believe that supports 1440p for Metal Gear Solid. I'll have to check, but yeah, good upgrade. What can I say? Let's move on. Cyberpunk, the game that continues to get better and better every single year. So today they announced a brand new update, Cyberpunk 2077 update 2.2, Uh, and like, look, they've fully moved on to developing other games. The next Cyberpunk game is early in development. It's in the pre-production phase. They are making The Witcher 4. I'm doing air quotes with 4. They're also making a Witcher remake. There's 2 other companies making Witcher action games, and there's also a new IP being developed by CD Projekt Red. But with all that going on, they've put out this brand new update which brings a bunch of features people have been wanting for years. And there are features that were never originally promised. There are features that people didn't think would come, because why would you drop so many new features, 4 years after launch, when the game isn't really being marketed anymore? But that's CD Projekt Red. They've came a long way. The game's been fixed over time. They completely overhauled gameplay and features with the Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty 2.0 update. That's a mouthful. And they've added more. So basically, you can change the color of your car on the fly with all vehicles, which is a really cool feature. Johnny Silverhand can actually sit in the car next to you as you drive along. They didn't say if he says anything. What else have we got? Oh yeah, there's 100 plus new customization options for your character creator, and in that game you can also change how you look during the game as well. So if you're playing right now, you can change that with a bunch of new features. The game also has, let me see. Oh yeah, you can take your saved photos from photo mode and display them in your apartment like regular photos. So nobody was asking for this stuff. Not really, but they've put it in anyway, and I think that's really commendable. I think CD Projekt Red, they used to get a lot of flack because, The Witcher 3 came out and it was broken in a lot of ways, but it's a masterpiece, and they fixed it very quickly, and it's now regarded as one of the best games of all time. Cyberpunk 2077 launched in a very embarrassing state, and, we had to wait 2 years for the next-gen upgrade, and then they fixed it, and nobody paid attention to the fix because it launched, I believe it was the day before Elden Ring launched. So,
Oof.
yeah, nobody paid attention to Cyberpunk. I think it was one of 5 people on the internet that were playing Cyberpunk that week. But they fixed it, and then the anime came with Edge Runners, which put a lot of eyes back in the game. And by the way, if people haven't seen Edge Runners yet, please do so. It's phenomenal. And then they dropped Phantom Liberty last year with the 2.0 updates. So, they've continuously improved these games despite their somewhat bad launches. And, look, 2077 launched in such a bad state, it was removed from... Well, it wasn't removed from PSN, but you weren't able to go to the store and buy it without a warning popping up. So, yeah. But yeah, the developers have done a fantastic job. What can I say? Logan, do you think you'll be getting to that game again at some point?
Absolutely. I'll be upfront. I haven't completed the game. I haven't gotten very far. I was waiting for all the updates and, the Phantom Liberty expansion and all for them to fix everything. I used to think of them like I did Night Dive, like they were day one, anything they put out. But then, the launch of Cyberpunk, they kind of had to earn people's trust and respect back. They've done it in spades. They're back to where they were. I'm super excited to jump in with this update. And again, to sound like a broken record, this is another one of those cloud games along with Witcher 3. So if you own both of those, you can play those on the go with your cloud stuff with Xbox. Like, I know I'm harping on that, but there's a method to the madness, like I used to do with the BC program all the time. Like, you support these initiatives and you keep bringing attention to them, and you ask for more titles to be added and bring up titles you want, they are listening. Just put it out there.
Yeah. And, they even added some more features a couple of months ago. There was never a working train, or like subway or whatever you want to call it in Cyberpunk and Night City, and now there's a train, and I think there's 19 different stops you can choose from. But yeah, it's incredible, and I will say they are moving to Unreal Engine 5 for their new games. And I think you can get some really good games from that engine, but I will say I will miss the aesthetic of Cyberpunk 2077 because I think their engine, like what's it called? the Red Engine or whatever it's called. I'm having a brain fart. Like their games are gorgeous. The next gen version of The Witcher 3 is beautiful. Cyberpunk 2077, beautiful game. So yeah, what can I say? But hey, I'm sure they're gonna surprise people whenever their games come out. In fact, I wouldn't be too shocked if we see something about the Witcher remake in the next year. Anyway,
Game Awards would be a good place for that.
Sorry, what were you saying?
I was saying Game Awards would be a good spot for that.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise us. But I think it's been long enough now for them to show something. Especially, Red Engine. That's what it was called. But like they announced the Witcher remake. I want to say a year and a half ago. In the first Witcher game, that's not a long game, by the way. The first Witcher game is very short. It's not a 190-hour game like Witcher 3. The Witcher 2. Honestly, I hope they never touch that game. Maybe remaster it. If people haven't played The Witcher 2, it's backwards compatible. It's honestly, I think it's one of my top 25 favorite games of all time. I love The Witcher 2. Anyway, we'll move on. Now we have some bad news for Mass Effect fans, especially me. Casey Hudson Studio is shutting down. Now, the creator of Mass Effect started up his own studio, I want to say 2 years ago, called Humanoid Studios. They put out a bunch of concept art of what they wanted to do, and I put out there, they wanted to make a third-person shooter that was sci-fi and basically aimed at Mass Effect fans. And it turns out they couldn't get funding. Now, when I saw that tweet, my heart cracked into two pieces. I was so heartbroken because, excuse me, without seeing a single frame of what this was going to be, I was sold on it. We don't get third-person sci-fi RPGs that often. And the fact that no publisher stepped up with funding at all, that's heartbreaking. But we are going to continue to see this because when COVID popped off, a lot of people were staying at home, spending money on video games. With the game industry, publishers were pumping all kinds of cash into developers because, the game industry was thriving while other industries were tanking. Movies, television, they couldn't make anything. Video games, though, you can make video games from home. So everyone was buying video games, and all these studios were, they were staffing up big time. And basically that bubble burst, I want to say a year and a half ago. And unfortunately, a lot of studios like that are going to be shutting down. A bunch of studios that came out of, I want to say, BioWare Exodus, we'll just call it. Not the video game Exodus, but an exodus of, BioWare devs. They all starting their own studios, making Mass Effect clones, basically. And we're probably never going to see them again. Or, see the light of day of any of them. There's also another studio called, let me see. By the way, I still find it kind of hard to talk, so if I mess up my words, you'll know why. World Untold, another studio by ex-Mass Effect 2 devs. They might be shutting down because of lack of funding. It's heartbreaking to see. We've seen studios shut down constantly this year. It was bound to happen again with all the stuff I said with COVID. But to see the Mass Effect style studios shut down, that really hurts, man. That really hurts. I'm sick and tired, and Logan's probably heard me say this a million times. I'm sick and tired of these RPGs, of bloody trees, fantasy RPGs constantly, and everything's a bloody fantasy RPG. Why does everything have to be about knights and elves and all that shit, right? I try not to swear on the channel, but I need to. Why does everything have to be a fantasy RPG? We get one sci-fi RPG in a blue moon, and that's it. And we don't get Mass Effect style games anymore, but we can get a million different bloody, fantasy games with elves and caves and trolls and dragons. Logan, what's your take on this? Because I need to breathe and have a drink, but it's heartbreaking, man. These games had so much potential by legendary developers, and we're never going to see them.
Yeah, I'm in total accord with you on this. It really sucks, straight up that you've got talented creators that made revered franchises that are, starting up studios trying to make games that harken back to what they created that everybody loved. And you would think people would flock to that and want it, but they can't get funding and they get shut down. And, instead, all these companies are chasing the idea of Fortnite type live service or safe bets and this and that. Like, you know, several generations ago, people bet on the Rockstar type devs, not Rockstar the company, but Rockstar as in bigger than life, like the household name creators, and go, hey, I'm going with this talent. I know this talent's going to make me something really, really good. And they went with that. Now it's so formulaic. It's disheartening and boring, and it's a shame. I hope they can land somewhere else and get their projects greenlit or make something similar. And like you said, we have so many fantasy RPGs. And this is coming from a guy who loves RPGs. RPGs, FPS, horror are like my three favorite genres. And so I love fantasy RPGs, but even I go, okay, how many elves do I have to deal with, or how many times do I have to destroy sewer rats, or go through some enchanted forest and find some unicorn or some dragon cave somewhere? Like, give me some alien sci-fi worlds and planets and lore and characters and make an expanse type game like Infinite Warfare. Like, if that had been called the Expanse instead of Call of Duty,
Yeah.
I think that really would have taken off. Like, I will die on that hill. I think we need a sequel to that game. Activision, if you're listening, please make an Infinite Warfare 2. Or if you want to call it something else, fine, but make that sci-fi shooter mega. Like, there is such a desire and appetite for this. Like, art. I hate to say it's easy to make a Western RPG or a fantasy RPG because it's not easy to make a game. But come on, grow a pair. Make something tougher. Make a sci-fi RPG as a challenge.
Yeah. I'll say it. Like, I speak to a lot of developers on a weekly basis, and I'll put it out there. I think it's cheaper to make a game with mountains and caves and trolls than spaceships in space. Right? Um, that's the only explanation I can think of. And look, the Game Awards is happening on Friday, Saturday, something like that. If a brand new if a brand new fantasy RPG is announced on stage at the Game Awards, right? And if everyone listening right now, you just happen to hear a scraping sound, that's my eyeballs rolling into the back of my head because I can't and I love fantasy, right? I love Lord of the Rings, I love The Witcher, I love Game of Thrones, but if I see one bloody elf one more time, like I'll take space elves, I'll take space elves, but
Make
if
them blue.
yeah,
It'll work out.
yeah, make them blue. But like, if I see one more bloody elf, in a mountain in a cave, I'm gonna cry. Like, at least with The Witcher, I know what I'm getting into, right? But like, I can't take I can't like. I know Logan just said he thinks the same. Like, but we can't. It can't just be two of us, right? Sick. Stop with the fantasy RPGs for 5 seconds. 1 year, right? If you go on your Xbox or PC, Switch, PlayStation, whatever, and you want to find a fantasy RPG, you have this massive breadth of games to choose from. Right at the minute, I have Dragon's
It's
Dogma.
not hard.
Yeah, I have Dragon's Dogma 2 gameplay on right now. Just happen to be talking about fantasy, and it's a great game. I love Dragon's Dogma 2, clearly. But can we get some sci-fi? Like, I'm sick to death of dragons and mountains and horses and like stop it. right? I'm annoyed. I've been sick. But yeah, it's a shame to hear about these studios shutting down. Hopefully, someone out there gives them some money. I know. I believe Nexon is pulling support on some studios. That may have been making some sci-fi stuff, but yeah, it's heartbreaking. I can't take another year with fantasy RPGs, man. Anyway, we'll move on.
Although I have bad news for you.
Yeah, like, uh, anyway, Logan, have you got anything else to say before I move on?
No, just that I really do hope somebody takes the mantle and makes a true awesome sci-fi RPG. That would really make me happy.
Yeah. You know what? Let's move on. Okay, let's talk about Final Fantasy. Right. I feel like this has been a never ending topic. Because Square Enix is a bit weird because they clearly like money, but they disdain it at the same time. They've had so many opportunities to put games on Xbox, but we don't know what the contract's like. But I do want these games to come over. Square clearly sees the profits, Sega's making. Sega makes bank now because they put their games on multiple platforms. And, over the past year, we've heard time and time again that Square Enix now includes Microsoft in their full multi-platform strategy. Great news. Then we hear the creator of Final Fantasy 14 and, talk about wanting to bring Final Fantasy 14 over. And it eventually does. Now we have the creative director of Final Fantasy 7 Remake not actually saying no to the game coming to Xbox. It's been broached multiple times this topic, and they've never once said no. And when it comes to the contract between Sony and Square Enix, it's never 100% ruled out that these games can actually come over. And look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think Final Fantasy 16 will be on Xbox within the next 4 months. But a lot of people really want 7. I mean, 7's a household name. You have Cloud, Tifa, Ares. I'm just saying that way to annoy people. But yeah,
I was about to say.
yeah, I'm just waiting for that really angry comment. It's Aerith. I know I'm going to say Ares just for the hell of it. But I just saw in the comment, did I like Starfield? Hell yeah. Just haven't been able to play the expansion because I've been sick. Playing video games when you got bronchitis is trying to think what I can compare it to. Just no energy, can't play anything, can't see. Hell, last week I was at a point where my eyelids hurt. Who would have thought that's a side effect of bloody bronchitis? But I'll get to the expansion again soon. Anyway, Final Fantasy. It looks like the games are coming. 7 Remake is the big one. I do honestly believe we could see 7 Remake on Xbox in the next year. It's in Square Enix's best interest to get... look, 7 Remake came out years ago. The dev team has completely moved on to getting the remake, out to PC port at some point. And then, the Remake Part 3, right? It's in their best interest to get the team on the port for the first game on Xbox as soon as possible. Logan, what's your take? Because we've talked about this a lot, but it looks like it's actually really possible that it could happen now.
I like you am convinced that 16 is that very soon. I'll put it that way for Xbox. Would a Game Awards shadow drop be a cool idea? I don't know, maybe. That's not a tease, that's just a fun idea. But it wouldn't surprise me if they did that. I I think 16 is going to be on Xbox very soon. And I do think 7 is coming and will be sooner than later. I've gone the whole spectrum. We've been doing this podcast now for 2 years. In that time, I've gone from there's not an Ice Cube's chance of this game ever even sniffing an Xbox platform to now I think it's inevitable and sooner than later. I, the creator wants it. Square clearly wants it. The only thing holding it up, I think, is what do these papers that were signed like a decade or how many years ago, what is the legal teeth to those? What exactly is written and said in these documents and agreements? Because if they can, I truly think it will be there sooner than later. And if I had to guess, I think within the next couple years we'll see FF7 on Xbox.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm looking forward to playing 16. But it's 7 remake. A lot of people's eyes are on. Mine are really on 7. You know, I mean, I played Final Fantasy 7 as a little kid. That game was
And
incredible, and you know, a lot of people that experienced that for the first time were little kids. So like now, like it just makes sense, and that's a household name. It would sell a lot. I I I am interested, and you know, we'll talk about this in the prediction section. I am interested to see that when Square Enix does bring these games over, will they do something like what 505 did with Death Stranding? Because Death Stranding was like number 1 on the store in the UK and a bunch of other countries around the world because of that impulse price. And the Xbox store,
it's still doing well.
yeah, it's still doing well. And the Xbox store doesn't go off copies sold, it goes off revenue. So, like, it being £17 in the UK made more money than like FIFA for like 2 weeks. So, like, these you know, massive discounts at launch clearly work. I mean, put this into perspective. The Crew 2 it was on sale for 89p, and it was number 1 on the store in the UK. That's by revenue, right? So, like, everyone I've spoken to, by the way, bought The Crew 2 when it was on sale.
It's $1.
Yeah, like everyone bought it, and like that is like beyond impulse price. So it's like it will be interesting to see if will they do anything like that, because like look, I have no intention of ever playing The Crew 2. Right, I was in the beta, I thought it was okay, but when I saw it listed as 89p, I was like, okay, yep, buying it. Like I didn't even think about it. Like hell, I bought Kingdom Come Deliverance, deluxe edition for $2.99 when it was on sale a while back. Like it never even popped into my head that, you know, maybe I shouldn't get it. It was, again, impulse prices just work, and you know, maybe Square Enix will do something like that. It will be cool to see. But hey, it looks like these games are coming finally. It's been long enough. But yeah, we'll move on. Okay, some fun Activision stuff. Give me 1 second while I type out the timestamps, which is annoying. So the Activision Blizzard, you know, acquisition, what happened about a year ago, fully went through a year ago or something. A lot of people have been waiting on the back catalogue of games coming to Xbox and, you know, Game Pass, and it's been slow. You know, Xbox, they slowly putting these games out. It looks like we're getting maybe 1 game a month from ABK in Game Pass. But the questions always remained, will we see backwards compatible games added, even though they ended the program? And for the past year, we've heard that rumors that they are working on a backwards compatible batch of games of Activision titles. And as time's gone on, it looked less and less likely. And now more than ever, it looks like we could be seeing all this stuff soon. So the Transformers games, Transformers War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, had their Steam database listings updated for the first time in like a decade. What I'm trying to say, the other titles. Okay, Spider-Man and Web of Shadows. Sorry, not Web of Shadows. Shattered Dimensions had its Steam database page updated as well, along with Singularity and some other games. Now, in the past few weeks, people have noticed that some Call of Duty titles have been added to the Windows Store, which were never listed before, right? So the first Call of Duty game, Call of Duty 2, and Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare now have just random Windows Store listings when they were never there before. Singularity has been listed on the Windows Store since September. So it looks like things are finally moving forward, and people have also found in the database that it looks like we could be getting Call of Duty games, all the Call of Duty games, added to Game Pass in, let's say, January and February. It looks like it's actually happening. Now, will this be a, let's say, a Game Awards drop? I don't really know. Again, we'll talk about that in a bit. But Logan, it looks like all of it's actually happening now.
Yeah, I mean, the whole fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on me again, fool me three times. I mean, like there there's clearly something going on in the back end with these titles. And if you follow their pattern, like the best, predictor of future behavior is past behavior, and past history is our great lesson and teacher. You go back and you look at how they've done things so far. Spyro and Crash Trilogy were both added to PC Game Store, like, not, I mean, it felt like an aeon ago,
Yeah.
but like a long, very a large amount of months ago, not a year, but a long time ago. And then, lo and behold, they pop up in Game Pass. So clearly they're trying to sync their libraries to where if there weren't PC versions before, they're getting PC versions ready to go and cooking and in the pipeline to go along with console versions. You know, this is where I challenge Xbox to make sure that that streak goes both ways, and that if it's a game that can play on console, like make sure it hits the console, version of Game Pass as well. Cough cough StarCraft and, Warcraft and some of these other games. And so clearly they're trying to get everything synced. And Xdos, who's a Spanish YouTuber who has really good Xbox connections and information and leaks, was talking about they have some stuff that they've seen about next year for World at War and Modern Warfare, the original one from Call of Duty 4, and a few other ones and their dates that were originally planned. So clearly they're working on stuff and getting things synced. And I wouldn't be surprised if they have a Game Pass batch at the Game Awards. You have all the eyes of the gaming community and world on it. If you really want to drive home your "this is an Xbox" message, which is lukewarm received at best by the community, this is the place to do it. So drop a Game Pass batch, make it ABK focused, and let's get the ball rolling. And please, for the love of peace, get Singularity and Quake 4 and these other left behind titles that you have all the rights to now that are first party, and get them on the bloody platform, please. It's not that big of an ask. Please, we've been very patient.
Yeah, another one is which hasn't been listed at all, is Quake Wars. Quake Wars was developed by Bethesda but is owned by Activision. So, like,
Yep, that's another one.
yeah, will we ever see that? Hopefully, thankfully they own those studios now, so that's actually possible. It will be interesting though, because I would love, like, if they come out at the Game Awards and just like have a clip of Transformers, Fall of Cybertron or War for Cybertron playing.
People would lose their stuff.
People will lose their minds because people love those Transformers games, and I love that to happen. However, I think Microsoft is saving them for a January event. They've done an early direct in the year for the past 2 years now, and I think an Activision, a BC or Game Pass drop would be. I think that would work, And look, the Game Awards, we're going to be talking about the Game Awards in a minute. I think a lot of people's eyes are on the Game Awards this week because there's a lot of hype going at this, and I don't really give the Game Awards much stock when it comes to awards, right? I think that, it is mainly a trailer-focused show that just happens to have awards there, If you host a game award ceremony, you should be counting the entire year's release of games, right? Because games that release in January always get forgotten about, and games that release in late November and December don't get nominated. They don't count. I've never been a fan of that way of award ceremony. But people are just going to be watching for the trailers. Anyway, hopefully we will see some Activision stuff soon because, again, people have just been waiting long enough. Now, we'll quickly talk about this because, excuse me, a lot of people online reacted to this in a way where it was kind of over the top. So, bear in mind, for the past 2 weeks, I've been completely silent on this topic on Twitter. I've never once acknowledged it. I've never once talked about it. And that is because I've just had no energy. I still don't have any energy. In fact, I was literally this close to not doing a podcast this week. So basically, Microsoft came out about 2 weeks ago with a new marketing scheme called This is an Xbox, right? And when I first saw it, bear in mind, I'm in my cocoon of blankets, holding a cup of tea, trying to get better, and I didn't really process the information like a regular human being. I just thought, okay, it's a new marketing stunt, because a lot of these companies, they come up with a new thing, and they try and tie a name to it, a slogan to it, because people recognize slogans. Like everything people like in tech, that has some sort of slogan. Be it, on PlayStation with PSSR or Xbox with Quick Resume, everything has to have a name, and especially when it comes to marketing. And I just kind of shrugged it off. And then I went on Twitter, as I do, and everyone was losing their marbles online over Microsoft basically trying to take away the meaning of what Xbox is by pointing at, hey, this is a PC, but it's also an Xbox. Hey, this is a donut, and it's not an Xbox. And I saw right then, there and then, that Microsoft, they had a great idea, and it was executed badly. That's all. Microsoft's strong suit for years now is actually their integrated ecosystem of, software and hardware. You can fire up your Xbox 360, play Oblivion, and then send your game save to the cloud, pull your save to an Xbox One, an Xbox Series X or S for free, and continue playing from that device. In fact, you can also do that on the cloud. And that's been Xbox's strong suit for a long time, is that if you own this game, you might be able to play it on PC with its, play anywhere, right? And they've been doing this for years. They've been doing play anywhere and the cross-save thing since, 2015? And, that's Xbox's thing, but they've never really marketed that. Xbox has never marketed their strong suit, which is the integrated ecosystem. And for some reason, in the back end of 2024, they decided to market it all of a sudden with a slogan. And if you actually look at their marketing, where it shows you a laptop or a PC and then a streaming device, Microsoft already did this stuff for years. It's just now they've got a slogan attached to it. And now you have people freaking out going, they're stepping away from the console. It's like, no, they've always done this. They've been doing streaming for a few years now. They've been doing PC and laptops, and it is what it is. But I think the execution of the marketing strategy kind of fell flat, because they didn't really need to attach a name to it. They could have just came out and said, hey, remember playing Black Ops on your 360 10 years ago? You can continue your saves and your progression on an Xbox Series X or PC whenever the cloud stuff comes with that game. That's all they had to do. It was just a good idea executed badly. Much like the Kinect, right? The Kinect was very powerful when it came to its feature set, right? It could look at you and tell you what your heart rate was. To me, to this day, it's still impressive. But how they came out and talked about Kinect at the time, the Kinect 2.0, it fell flat on its face, because people heard TV, sports, and we didn't hear about any of the health benefits or what it could do for gaming. We heard none of that. We just heard TV. And it was a good thing executed badly. So my takeaway is people overreacted, but Xbox didn't market it in a good way, in my opinion. Logan, what's your take?
I'm mostly in agreement with you on that. Like, I like the idea and like that this is an Xbox and this is an Xbox and this is an Xbox and guess what? That's an Xbox too. Like I like the idea of being able to play my Xbox games anywhere and everywhere, all at once. Like for example, like another reason I keep bringing up the cloud stuff is like we've had some work done, at the house to where it's like I can't be where my main TV is sometimes. And so, off and on, I've had to play on a cloud device instead of on, my main TV and stuff.
Mm.
And so, it's been really nice being able to play my own games and Game Pass games on a cloud device. Like, that has been awesome. And the fact that they basically confirmed that yes, they are making an Xbox native, type handheld device in a few years' time is awesome news. And I love the idea of being able to, natively play it. That way I can, play it on a road trip or, somewhere that doesn't necessarily have Wi Fi.
Yeah.
Or, if I'm somewhere and I don't have one of these devices and I don't have my console, but I could, use this Samsung app and play it on the TV native via cloud or do this and that. Like I like that message and that idea. I do think though, like Jez and some others have said, that it's a bit early and that it's a bit convoluted in its narrative and messaging because right now, to be blunt, it is a limited number of games you can play. It's like 50-ish for your own games that aren't in Game Pass. And that's it. Like that is a small fraction of the library that most people would have by now.
Yeah.
I assume anyway. And while that's great and awesome and I love it and chef's kiss, it's wonderful experience. I can't wait for them. I hope they do like a Tuesday Thursday thing like they used to with BC, or you get a cloud batch basically
Oh yeah.
a week or every few weeks. That'd be awesome. That would generate hype. Here's a free idea for the Xbox team. Um, or my guess is they're probably just gonna do big batch drops, like a 50 batch or a 100 batch, or every few months is my guess. But at the moment, when they put this out there that everything's an Xbox and you can play all your games and this, it's like you got to look at the fine print and go, oh, so it's not all my games, it's a few games, or specifically Game Pass games I can play. So not everything's kind of an Xbox. It's not fully an Xbox. And then you go with the people who I think some have gone too far with their fear mongering on it, but I do agree there is valid concern about the whole de emphasis on console importance. Like, they've been clear they're going to make consoles. So that's said, that's done. We know they're making more going forward. It will be a part of their messaging. But when you've been so entrenched in a way of doing something for so long, it does make you a bit uneasy when they're shifting from that being the primary focus. Like, I get things change and evolve, but the fact that they're putting less and less emphasis on it makes people nervous. People get worried about a Google Stadia or type idea where if too many of their games go to other platforms, then there's less emphasis and desire and need to be on the Xbox. They lose political clout and power, and thus it ends up being where, well, there's a hypothetical scenario where your library is just stuck and you're just screwed if Xbox ceased to be, because I highly doubt PlayStation and Nintendo would offer an olive branch and let you somehow magically transfer your digital purchases and library. So I understand why people are concerned. I don't think it's as bad as some are making it, but I do understand there is a valid concern about it, and people should voice opinions and make it clear like, hey, if you want to make it to where console isn't the primary focus, Okay. You want people to know you can play things other places? Cool. But at least don't so go overboard and so promoting of other things and de-emphasizing console to where people on console feel like they've been forgotten, tossed in the trash. Is kind of how the vibes I've been sensing.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was long-winded, but it's not a simple black-white
Oh no, it's fine.
topic.
I think look, we've talked about this for years, and a lot of people mention this. Like Xbox's problem for a long time is messaging. It's always been messaging. It doesn't matter if you have something good to talk about; it could be messed up one way, and then like look back at the Xbox One announcement, right? Before the console was announced, people were hearing rumors about a check-in. Was it a 24-hour check-in? Was it once every 12-hour check-in? Like people didn't know, and we were getting different answers from different people at Microsoft. So like, it's a problem Microsoft have never fixed, and that's messaging. And the thing is, it's a problem they can fix. It's a problem they definitely can fix. It's just they have to get. I think what's that saying? Too many cooks in the oven, or too many cooks in the kitchen. um,
Hope the cooks aren't in the oven.
yeah, they sadly burnt right by now. But like the problem with Microsoft is you have people from one department saying one thing and one department saying another. It's like I think people up top at Xbox, they understand that Xbox as a brand is a multi. I'm trying to think how to come out of this. A multi-device, brand. It's cloud, console, PC, whatever. I do believe that they do know that console is the upfront. Console is the face of the brand. But again, that's something we'll talk about another day. Now, let's get into some fun stuff. So, Logan, you have not played Indiana Jones, correct?
I have not, but I have heard great things, and I'm looking forward to playing it. It looks incredible. How have you enjoyed it?
Right, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is bloody incredible. Um, the funny thing is, it's kind of two different games that I like that are smashed together. It's part Prey and it's part Deus Ex Human Revolution. And going into this game, I expected immersive sim elements. I 100% expected that, but I didn't expect it to lean in it so much. Where if you play something like Rise of the Tomb Raider or Uncharted or basically any other action adventure game, you're basically led down a path and you're given these puzzles to solve, and the puzzles aren't really they don't really make you think. They don't really make you feel smart for accomplishing the puzzle. This game does that. It is 100% an adventure game, where even small puzzles are designed. So the first main area in the game is set in the Vatican, and it's not a linear game. You have this huge, massive area with different, basically a lot like the Vatican in real life. There's these alcoves, there's these ancient tombs that lead to other parts of the Vatican, and you have you have multiple different ways to get into the massive courtyard where there's different enemies held up there and different objectives, and you're given different objectives in this game. There's main and secondary, and there's also this third tier of objective where you can basically go around and photographing statues and these fountains and whatnot, and you can hand these photographs of these statues to people that ask for them. And it's not the game a lot of people are going to expect. A lot of people are going to go into this thinking, hey, it's Wolfenstein, but it's Indiana Jones. It's not like that. There is a lot of Wolfenstein in this. So if people like Wolfenstein, but you also like things like Deus Ex Human Revolution and Prey and Dishonored, this is going to be people's dream game. People are already calling this their game of the year. And yeah, Hitman comparisons. Hitman, there's definitely some Hitman in this. And basically, look, I'm still on the first main mission, which is the Vatican. And it is so well designed that we haven't had a game like this in a very long time. And I think a lot of people are calling it their game of the year because we don't get games like this hardly ever. It's polished to a bloody T, right? Frame rate, solid 60. Visuals, possibly some of the best this generation, and it's super sharp. The I keep thinking about the puzzles in this game, right? So in the Vatican, people will come across this white desk, and it's a puzzle, and you intuitively figure out this puzzle to unlock it to get more money, right? And you can use money in this game to unlock things like perks. And every time you get something like a pamphlet or a book or an artifact, you get experience points which you can spend on upgrades for your character. And it's just so well done. It's so well done. The game even opens up with a recreation of Raiders of the Lost Ark's opening, with the tomb and the golden idol. It's just so well done. I cannot believe how good this game is. And like, as a Wolfenstein fan, as a Machine Games fan, I knew they were going to do a good job with this, but I didn't expect them to lean into the immersive sim element as much as they have. Because if you watch the trailers, it kind of just looks like a first-person action adventure. It's like a Tomb Raider, Uncharted game, but it's first-person. It couldn't be any further from those games. And it does also have third-person elements. So when you're swinging from one area to another using the whip, or if you're climbing a ladder or a pipe or a wall, it goes into third-person mode. It is really cool that you can sneak around through enemies, and all these enemies have detection bars above their heads, much like Deus Ex. It's incredible. It really is. And again, I've spent hours just in the first main mission, the Vatican. You also have different items you can pick up, but you can pick up basically anything and use it as a weapon. You can use lanterns, sledgehammers, wrenches, fly swatters. You can even throw fruit at people. You can even throw a croissant at people, even though it won't do anything. It's just so well made. It's incredible. And I think that if people go into this, do not expect Wolfenstein at all. Just expect a different kind of action adventure game. And we've talked about this in the past, that immersive sims as a genre, we don't get many. We've had Dishonored 1 and 2, we've had Prey, we've had Deus Ex Human Revolution and Mankind Divided, but not really anything else. This game does provide immersive sim unlike anything we've seen in years. For people that listen that aren't really familiar with immersive sims, you basically presented it. I can't speak. I apologize. You basically presented a challenge. You need to get into a certain room. Now, in a lot of games that aren't immersive sims, you might have to find a key card or key to unlock this door. But in an immersive sim, they give you multiple different paths to get into this room. So maybe you have to find an open grate in the ground in a different room that'll take you underground to the next room. Or you can crawl through some vents and maybe break apart a wall. It's that which we don't see in games often, which is kind of sad because with the technology we have now with video games, you'd think you'd see that more often, but we don't. But in this game, it's just handled so well. And just like the fact that you can use so many different things as a weapon, like you can use the guitar as a weapon, so you're basically Jeff Jarrett. It's just so good. You can change disguises depending on where you are in the Vatican. I assume this is how it's going to work when you get to Egypt and the Amazon. Your disguises will basically affect how enemies react to you in different areas. Captains, so enemy captains can recognize you through your disguise, so you have to sneak around them while the other people can see you. It's just so good, so good. And it being first person works in the best possible way because you can see items up close. I don't think immersive sims really work in third person, not really. But like, it's incredible. It really is. I think a lot of people will put maybe 30 to 40 hours in this game. Again, I've put several hours just in the Vatican level, and that's the first mission really, outside of the tutorial section. I think a lot of people are going to love this game. Logan, is there anything you want to know about the Indiana Jones before I move on?
No, it's music to my ears. Like, you start hearing Prey and Dishonored comparisons, like, that's awesome. And honestly, as someone who hasn't played this game, like, going in hearing that, it does make sense. Like, it was surprising at first here like Indiana Jones, but we're making it kind of like this instead of a different type of experience. But, you know, as someone who's well versed in Indiana Jones lore and, grew up with the trilogy and the films and all that and other games, it makes sense because even in all those adventures, he would occasionally go in and brawl or occasionally go in and, use a revolver or his whip or a sword or lots of missions of sneaking around with disguises and do stunts and car chases, like all kinds of choose your own adventure type experiences. So it makes sense to get the player the ability to choose how you want to go about it and make it a Prey type or Dishonored type indie game, because that's how indie is himself. So I like that.
Yeah. Oh, and I will say this: Troy Baker as Harrison Ford has to be some of the best casting I've ever seen in a video game. Uh,
Spot on.
yeah, spot on. Like literally, if someone told me, "Hey, they went back in time to the '80s to get Harrison Ford to come back to do voiceover for this game," I would believe them because he's like pitch perfect Harrison Ford. I don't know. Like, I think like Troy Baker's gotten a lot of slack in the past because of him being in so many different games, but he's just talented, man. Like he was the Joker in Batman Arkham Origins. He was amazing in that role. He was also Batman in Batman and Bruce Wayne in the Telltale Batman games, and he was great in that as well. And like he was also the Penguin, I believe. Like he's such a good voice actor, and this has to be his best role. Like I didn't think anyone outside of impersonators maybe that could like sound this good, and he is like spot on. Like nothing, everything he says sounds exactly like not just what Harrison Ford would say, but what Indiana Jones would say, and the way he'd say it. And like, the other voice actors are great too. The music, I don't know who scored the game because there's obviously the Indiana Jones soundtrack from the movies, but there's also new music which sounds like old Indiana Jones music, but it's incredible. It really is. I think a lot of people are going to have fun with this game, and I honestly think when the generation comes to a close, I think this will be one of those games people bring up, thinking like this is one of the best because it not only is it polished, it's fun, it's original, it actually brings a lot to the table when it comes to the action adventure genre, and when it comes to an Indiana Jones video game, I play this and think this is how it should be done. And for people that doubted this game going into it, uh, it was all for nothing. Like it's literally so good. I've got gameplay going on right now of the opening section. It's like it's perfect. The puzzles are intuitive to the point where it doesn't hold your hand, but it's easy to explain to the player, and I love that. And it's different, Like, look, I've said this before, and people think I'm crapping on Uncharted or Tomb Raider. Like, Rise of the Tomb Raider is one of my favorite games of all time, and it's nothing like those games. It broke the mold. They could have gone safe and made a very advertiser friendly action adventure game, and they went with an immersive sim, like ballsy, very ballsy. I hope everyone gets to
Just
enjoy
like
it.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I never thought they'd do an Indiana Jones game this way, and they pulled it off. What can I say? And again, I'm still on the Vatican level. Anyway, we'll move on. People play that, and also, by the way, we get an expansion next year. So, like, I don't even know how they're going to expand on it that way. I will say this: I want Troy Baker to come back. I want this to be a full-on trilogy. And considering what the past two movies were like, I hope we get more Indiana Jones games for years. And as a Wolfenstein fan, bear in mind, I loved those Wolfenstein games. I've been wondering, like, will we see a new Wolfenstein game in the next few years? By the way, I do think we will. I'm honestly putting it out there. I would rather see a Indiana Jones sequel before Wolfenstein. So, yeah.
High praise.
Yeah, like, what can I say? It's just so good, man. Anyway, we'll move on. The Game Awards is just around the corner. I believe it's Friday, right?
It's in 2 days.
Okay.
A
Wow.
Thursday.
Okay. I almost missed it there. Now, there's people saying this is going to be the biggest Game Awards to date when it comes to reveals. I honestly I like the way that people in the industry are talking about it. There's something big going to be announced, like something that people don't expect. I'm putting it out there. I 100% think it's Half-Life 3. The way the way Valve have been going on lately, the Steam Deck, they've said, look, the Steam Deck, it's not getting a new iteration anytime soon. There's the rumors of the Steam boxes coming back in a new form. The fact that they put out that massive documentary about Half-Life 2, it just seems like something's cooking, and I think Valve like think of how many years people have been wanting Half-Life 3. And like this game has to live up to lofty expectations. Like GTA 6 level expectations. And, as much as I don't like Jason Schreier, whatever, he has said that, there's going to be multiple announcements there that people do not expect. And I think Half-Life 3 is going to be one of them. I feel like the stars have aligned. It's time. And I think people should be ready for it. Now, I'll get my predictions out the way because, I need to, breathe shortly. I do think, there's going to be Black Myth Wukong for Xbox that's going to be announced there. I do think Final Fantasy 16 could possibly be there. I think Bioshock 4 is going to be announced on that stage. It's been in development for a long time. I think it's been in development since 2017. It's been long enough. It's been put off a few times. I do think that Xbox is going to take a step back. I don't think we're going to see major first-party announcements. I do think we will see a Fable gameplay trailer, a new one, with a release date. And I do think we will see, obviously, look, I was talking about this anyway. This was my prediction before they even announced it. Mafia 4, the old country, we're going to get a release date and gameplay trailer for that. They basically came out yesterday and said they're going to do it. I think there's going to be a lot of big game announcements people have been waiting for a long time. Logan, what do you expect? Because it looks like there's a lot of hype going at this show.
Yeah, this is shaping up to be a mega show. Like some like truly like jaw-dropping type announcements apparently. And to me there's none bigger than Half-Life 3. That is the white whale, the one that got away, the one everybody has been waiting for ages. And I'm with you. I really do think that one is happening, and I think it will be at the show. If it's not at the show, I still think it will be revealed sometime soon, but I do think it will be at the show. And maybe or maybe not another revival of sorts of something dormant would be my guess. What it is, I don't know, but just the vibes that are out there right now, I think some classics are going to come back in a big way.
Mm.
As for Xbox, I think Game Pass announcements, maybe Honkai Star Rail, because Genshin just
Oh,
came to
yeah.
Xbox and is doing really, really well. And we already saw a leak for Honkai Star Rail for Xbox, in the near future. Seems like a great place. We already know Jeff loves revealing gotcha games for Xbox, so so it's the perfect place for it. Um, and yeah, I don't see too many big first party stuff. Maybe a trailer release date for midnight, south of midnight. It's been long enough. Maybe something for that or Fable. But overall, I think it's going to be more of a third party mega announcements type show where Xbox is included by nature of they have console, game comes to that console kind of evening.
Yeah. I do think, Exodus, by former BioWare devs is going to get a release date there and a full gameplay trailer. Because it's been long enough. They keep teasing the game. There's a book out that you can buy that it's filled with concept art. Normally, developers don't do that when a game is that far out. Judas by Ken Levine, the creator of BioShock. Like, that game is meant to come out by the end of March, so like they have to show something soon.
We've had one trailer.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, but
It's like Pragmata. What happened to that game?
yeah, I posted about that game last night, and like I have this list of games. I basically have a database of games that's coming to Xbox, and they go by date. And I have a list of games that just don't have like a release window anymore. And Pragmata, like that's one of them. That was originally going to come out in 2023, and that was pushed back to this year. And there's no trailer, and still nothing. So like, I can't imagine that game coming out this year, because again, they haven't officially delayed it. So unless they shadow drop it, which I doubt, because it's meant to be a major new IP for Capcom, I can't see it happening. On like I said,
Last Light.
yeah, and like I said earlier before, I do think the Witcher remake is going to be there. The Witcher is a very short game. It's not a long game. Like The Witcher 2 is a 30-hour game, which if people haven't played The Witcher 2, please do. It's amazing. That's a 30-hour game, and it was longer than the first game. So, and that first Witcher game has aged so badly. Like it's so bad. Even the voice acting in that first game, oof, it's awful. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good award show. It is. Like, look, I know a lot of people are sour watching it because one, the cutoff date doesn't make any sense. It's held in December because the ad revenue is at its highest. By the way, Logan, I mentioned this about a month ago, and I'll mention it again for everyone listening. For the past 2 years, there's been Muppets at the Game Awards. And I don't know if Muppets are still big in the US, but apparently they have a Muppets again this year. What is with the Muppet thing?
I have no idea. Like, maybe you're speaking to the wrong person, because I never liked the Muppets to begin with. I thought they were creepy, furry puppet looking things, and I just didn't like them. And I thought they were annoying, to be honest. But apparently, there's an audience for them, or maybe Jeff just loves them, and he just wants to, push the stuff he likes. And guess what? That includes comical little hand puppets. Maybe so, but I have no idea why they're there. It doesn't make sense to me, but again, it's not my show. So, oh, and speaking of Game Awards, do you see BAFTA had some stuff come out today?
Yeah, I saw that Hellblade 2 has 11 nominations.
Yep, and not only that, but guess what? DLC isn't eligible for the top prize. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, funny thing is, we would have talked about this last week or the week before because, I feel like I've been hit in the throat by a truck. Damn bronchitis. The whole DLC is Game of the Year thing. Like, look, I've seen reactions to it. Some people saying they're salty that, Shadow of the Erdtree is going to win Game of the Year and all that stuff. And people, we've been saying this for years. A lot of people have been saying this for years. DLC should, such as expansions, should get its own category. We've had amazing expansions for years. Going back, look at The Witcher 3 with Heart of Stone. And, oh my God, I forgot the other one. Blood and Wine. Those weren't eligible, and those are massive expansions. Mass Effect 2, and I'll talk about Mass Effect 2 at any opportunity. Lair of the Shadow Broker was incredible. Mass Effect 3, Mass Effect 3 Citadel and Leviathan DLC, incredible. But it's never once approached my mind thinking, oh, this could win Game of the Year. I think DLC is Game of the Year is stupid. It doesn't make any sense, and I've seen some people in the industry come out and say, well, it's a game, so it counts. No, not on my watch. Why? Why is it a game all of a sudden? Why didn't Phantom Liberty last year not get nominated. Uh, honestly, I honestly believe this. I think Shadow of the Earth Tree got nominated this year. It's gonna win. It's gonna win Game of the Year. I think it's because it's gonna get headlines, right? Think about this. This is gonna be the first Game Awards ceremony where a DLC is gonna win Game of the Year. It's gonna be all over the place. Reactions online are gonna be high. People are gonna be talking about this for a long time, a long time. And also, remasters and remakes are eligible for Game of the Year now. I honestly think remasters, especially, should have its own category. We get too many, well, not too
Agree.
many, but we get a lot every single year, some better than others. And earlier on this year, remember we got the remaster of Star Wars Battlefront Collection? I reviewed
That
that.
was a demaster.
Yeah, like I reviewed those games, and let me tell you, what an awful state those games were in, and still are in. But like, I just don't get it. Like, Logan, like, what's your take on the whole Game of the Year thing for Shadow of the Earth Tree? Because I love Elden Ring. It's a 10 out of 10 game for me. The DLC, I have the main boss to go in like 3 dragons, and I thought it was good, right? But Game of the Year, I don't know.
To me, that goes down a road that you just don't come back from. Like, just being blunt and honest. Like, once you start throwing that out there, it's like, what are we gonna have a skin of the year? Are we gonna have a, just I don't know. Like, have expansions in their own category, and it's just like you said, there have been legendary expansions come out in the past, like Shivering Isles for Oblivion. I That would have been a game of the year type experience, or because it was massive in scale and completely changed things and like this whole huge open realm. But it was part of Oblivion, and people just knew that. Like, you had to have Oblivion to buy this. Yeah, and that's another thing. This isn't a standalone expansion to thing to where it's a a spin-off or a different type of game, but it's tied to this other thing. It's like, no, you have to have this game to get it. It is a expansion for this game, so thus it is this game, just a different part of it. How is that a different game? You
Yeah,
know, it's just it's goofy and short-sighted, and I find it incredibly indicting, frankly, on the voting panel that so many people wanted to write this in over actual games, that it got pushed through and is going to be a finalist, and honestly, probably a pretty good chance it wins. Just sweep, because everybody loved Elden Ring, and this is more Elden Ring. And if it's like, well, if I voted, unless you have people out there that have a stance like we do, and they're like, yeah, I loved Elden Ring and I gave it Game of the Year, but I'm not going to give it Game of the Year 2 years in a row, or 2 award cycles in a row, because I already gave it its time and its award. This is an expansion. This is additional content. This isn't a new game. So it doesn't get to double dip and have its cake and eat it too. That just, I don't know. There are much bigger moral issues in the world, but it just, I do not like it, and I do not like the precedent it sets, and I'm very much against it. And I think it's a disservice to fans, the industry, um, everybody. And it's an indictment on the voting community that they push that through. And I hope they address it going forward and make categories for it, and remakes and remasters. I love remakes and remasters when necessary or done well, like Night Dive does it. But there have been so many shameless cash grab ones that have also come out,
yeah.
to where it's like, are you really going to sit there with the intestinal fortitude and tell me that this cash grab remaster is worthy of being thrown in with top few games of the year, when it's a shameless, soulless husk port compared to a brand new game. Like, I don't know. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but it's just the way they're doing things is really bothering me.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just the only category that doesn't make sense to me. It's like a best ongoing game, right? Shouldn't World of Warcraft be nominated?
It's been going 30 years, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like they get expansions all the time. They announced 3 expansions at the last BlizzCon. Like people, like they've been getting content for decades, you know, and it's still going. And like, look, I think No Man's Sky they're probably going to win that one because of the way they do expansions every year. But just something seems off about this Game Awards thing. And again, we couldn't talk about this 2 weeks ago because of stupid bronchitis. But like, I found out, I saw the list of the jurors, and like they're all like non-gamer centric, outlets. So like, why do you have the LA Times nominating video games? Right? That doesn't make any sense. And the fact that the jurors have 90% of the say, and gamers have 10% of the say. So technically, our 10% means nothing because the gaming industry is very much an echo chamber of up themselves opinions. So they're all going to vote on the same thing anyway, regardless. Meaning our 10% means diddly squat. And I love Elden Ring, but given it Game of the Year, it's the instant win. It's winning. Like, I know people are saying Metaphor v Fantasio, and honestly, out of the ones nominated, I hope that does win. But it's Elden Ring. Elden Ring's going to win. And also, why isn't Space Marine 2 nominated for Game of the Year? Did none of the bloody jurors play Space Marine 2? Like, that game is phenomenal. Like, Logan, you played Space Marine 2, right?
Yeah, it's currently my game of the year right now. I haven't played through Metaphor, but I am very high praise and hopes for it. I expect it to be on my list along with Indie. But yeah, Space Marine 2 is a game of the year candidate, and the fact that it wasn't even a finalist is wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just think it, and the thing is, everyone arguing and us talking about it right now. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because we all look at this award ceremony, and everyone listening right now, we could all admit this award ceremony, people 100% watch for the trailers, right?
Half-Life 3, baby.
Yeah, like I'm going into this. Yeah, I'm going into this show on Thursday. Half-Life 3 trailer. That's why I'm going into it, right? I don't like. Look, who wins best esports coach? Is there anyone on earth outside of the esports coaches going into this Game Awards going, can't wait for tonight to see who's the esports coach of the year? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And it's like when it comes to esports in general, like esports is weird because it's absolutely massive in Korea, but in England it's not really much of a thing. In the US, I know it's bigger, like Call of Duty and stuff, but like nobody really cares. As you can hear, my voice is beginning to go.
I know the hyena thing.
Yeah, the hyena laugh will come out, but like nobody really cares about half of these awards. And like, look at what's it called, Balatro. That game is nominated for Game of the Year, but isn't it not nominated for Best Indie Game of the Year?
Like, that makes no dang sense whatsoever.
And like, it's a game made by one dude, and I don't really play card games, but like I think it's really impressive that this one guy made this game that's took the world by storm, and that's awesome. Like, if anything, this person should win, Best Indie Game of the Year. But the fact that you're putting Balatro against Shadow of the Erd Tree, it just seems weird, I don't get it. Maybe one day we'll find out. But again, we don't go into the award show for the awards. I'll put it like this. I'll put this out to, Jeff Keighley, right? Do you really think you could put put out an award ceremony like this without any trailers for new games. No. Like, I love watching the BAFTA Game Awards every year because it's a full on black tie award show. And they always have a comedian that does play video games. So I'd say a lot of the time they had this comedian, Irish comedian called Darren O'Brien, who is a legitimate comedian and he plays video games. He knows what the hell he's talking about, and he's done an amazing job hosting in the past. But like, it's not a arena filled crowd. It's like it's a lot of people. The people have seen in the industry, but like I'd say it's maybe a quarter of the amount of people that are sitting down watching the Game Awards in that the arena. Like, it's the new trailers people watch, right? As much as I like seeing game developers get the recognition they deserve, millions of people don't watch Game Award ceremonies for the awards. Like, can you imagine the Oscars and their view numbers if they said, hey, the new Avengers Doomsday trailer is gonna, or whatever it's called, the new Avengers trailer is gonna drop during the Oscars? The view count would bloody skyrocket. But nobody cares, right? Nobody cares about award ceremonies anymore because they don't mean something half the time. Anyway, we kind of over the 2 hour mark, but we can go on a little bit longer because we haven't had a show for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. The Xbox handheld. This has been the longest rumor for years when it comes to Microsoft. People have been wanting an Xbox handheld going back to the original Xbox. And the past few episodes of All Things Xbox podcast, I've had Xbox handheld in the title, and because we're kind of wondering, is it coming? Phil Spencer talks about portable gaming at every opportunity, and literally the day after our last podcast, it was basically confirmed. Phil Spencer said there's hardware in development, but it's years away. Which I thought was kind of ironic. Literally the day after the show. But yeah, it's happening. The handheld wars is coming. God forbid. It also looks like Sony is also working on a handheld native console. But yeah, it looks like next generation. The handheld thing is 100% happening. And we will have a 100% portable native Xbox handheld. Now, I'll put this out of the way right now so I can get my little prediction in. I think the Xbox handheld is going to look 100% like an ROG Ally. The way, the form factor, everything about it. Maybe not the glowing sticks, but I think it's going to look like an ROG. Logan, what's your take? Because we've been discussing the Xbox handheld for what feels like an eternity, but it's confirmed now.
Well, first off, I'm super glad that it is officially a thing because, we heard Phil and Sarah and others basically just talk about it all the time. And then basically they're finally like, yeah, it's in development. We're working on it a few years out. And, depending on your interpretation of how many is in a few, that could be, 2, 4, I don't know, but it's going to be sooner than later. I can't wait. My only thing is I wonder if it's going to be instead of like we talk about the need for a refresh for consoles like a series, like the Xbox One X was really, really needed because the Xbox One was, a potato when it launched, frankly. And so the Xbox One X was really needed, where we don't need that now. And Phil has said that, and basically, no, and $1,000 consoles isn't sustainable, and basically talk about the PS5 Pro and all that. Where my only question is this handheld? Does it end up being like a stopgap, where it is kind of like, it's not this gen, but it's not next gen either. It's kind of its own thing. Or is it going to come out, as part of the next generation console? Or is it possible that it itself is the one and only next gen console they make, and it's kind of like a Switch thing to where you can dock it or not. And but yeah, the idea of a fully native handheld, I'm day one, 100%. Ever since I was little, I've wanted to be able to play my console games on the go. It always felt like a pie in the sky kind of idea. But I used to take my Game Boy everywhere with me, and so the idea of being able to, you know, play, Halo or Avowed or whatever on the go, fully native is incredible. So I'm day one, and I'll double dip if it's a handheld and a more powerful home console. But if it's just one or the other, like a handheld and that's it, then yeah, I'm still cool.
Yeah, I think Microsoft they may have confirmed that there's going to be a traditional home console as well. But like you said, like
Okay.
how are they going to do it? Because like I think the thing that works in Xbox's favor right now is that they have a Series S with all these Series S profiles out there. So like whatever Xbox game people have, it works on a Series S. So like at the bare minimum, it has to be a Series S power wise. But even then, like you look at how like these portable devices have lower resolution screens because they don't need to be that high. I believe the Steam Deck is 800p, and people are completely happy with it. So like if it's a Series S and a handheld, it'll be perfectly fine. But if it's going to launch alongside the next Xbox, um, it could potentially be a bit more powerful than an S, but play S games, more efficiently, which I think would work. But I do like the idea of that next time, they're going with a main console and a handheld. And I think the thing that people really need to pay attention to is the price thing. Up until the PlayStation 5 Pro was announced, not one person on the internet was talking about the price of next generation. No one was talking about it, right? It's been 500 a few times in a row now. And no one was talking about, oh yeah, next generation's going to cost $700. Nobody was talking about it. And then the PlayStation 5 Pro price was announced, and it's $700, £700. And all of a sudden, people start talking about how next gen is magically 700 based on nothing. And Phil Spencer coming out saying, $1,000 console doesn't make sense. It's like, yeah, it's 700, but you have to look at like the inflation over the past few years doesn't match how much money people are making compared to a few years ago. So like charging $700 for a console is very unrealistic. But when it comes to a handheld, that's when they can be a bit how should I say it, loose with the price, because let's say next gen their Xboxes, we'll call it the Xbox 6 because I think that's what Xbox should call it. Let's say that's $500, and their handheld console is also $500, but it's less powerful, but it also has a screen on it, an internal battery, an integrated controller, and all that stuff. I just think it's something Microsoft has to be careful around. Price is going to be a huge factor next generation. Just companies like look at the Switch 2, right? The Switch 2, that's going to be a bit more powerful Switch. It's going to play all the games people already have. I assume all the saves and stuff's going to work. And I doubt that the Switch is $1 more than 400. I don't see it happening. Take it to the bank. It will be
Oh yeah, Bowser isn't about that expensive console life. He wants families to get
yeah.
those for Christmas.
Yeah, like $399 maximum on a bad day. But yeah, that's it. It's all happening now. When it comes to like next week's show, actually, Logan, have you got anything else to say on the handheld before we close out the show?
Oh, just that I'm super stoked for one. I can't wait. I love. I know again another plug, but I love my LG Cloud device, and so the idea of a fully native one that's Xbox ready. I mean, that's an Xbox branded one that has all my games natively. Hopefully by then we have a few more than 50 games
Yeah.
playable. So if not, there's a major problem. But yeah, I can't wait, man. It's gonna be so cool, the idea of, playing Gears of War or Halo, Avowed, Fable, Perfect Dark on the go, or in the other room or whatever. It's just, I don't know. It just makes me smile and feel like a kid again. It just, the whole, Game Boy with Pokemon kind of vibe again.
Yeah. I mean, look, as much as I always say I'm not a portable gamer, like when I was a kid, I played like my Game Boy on the couch. Like so, like there's clearly some nostalgia there. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Now I will say this: that so the Game Awards is what, Thursday. Um,
Hmm.
obviously I would have originally liked to have live streamed the Game Awards. Unfortunately, it ends at like 3:30 in the morning UK time. So maybe not. And considering, again, throughout the show, I'm sure people have heard my voice go like croaky and stuff. I'm still not well. We'll see what happens. I would like to live stream it, but that is a long ass show with a lot of licensed music I have to mute. Um, but we'll see what happens. We will be back for a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast next Tuesday, usual time. Uh, if people enjoyed this show today, please like, share, and subscribe. It really does help the algorithm out, especially considering we've had 2 or 3 weeks off. My brain is scrambled eggs at the minute. I'm trying to get out a video this week. Unfortunately, due to the bronchitis, I've actually had to scrap 2 videos, which was extremely sad to see and hit delete. But I might be able to get a video out this week, depending on timing. Again, my throat sounds bloody terrible. But yeah, back to normal routine. And I will say this, with Christmas coming up, obviously we won't be having a show on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. We'll discuss that next week's show. Or we might do a pre-Christmas episode on the weekend. We'll discuss it behind the scenes or all that stuff. Anyway, hope everyone had a good day. We're out, everybody. Peace.